It's like all squares are rectangles.
Yeah.
You just need
Not all
some board.
rectangles are squares.
No.
I had
All
hold on, I'm thinking. All squares.
rectangles. No, all rectangles are squares.
No, they're not. No, all squares are rectangles.
All squares are.
Well, technically, all squares I think are parallelograms.
Now we have new banter.
Love it.
The whole episode's gonna be banter.
All rectangles are. No, they are. No, they are.
And this segment is brought to you by 5th grade math.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human, snark sold separately. I'm Coach Amanda, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host,
Coach Nick. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. And we have a great episode today. This is part 3 of our Need or Not series with our experts in fitness, sports nutrition, run coaching. And this is our run coaching segment. As you can see, we have 2 amazing guests. We have Toni Kengor and Elisabeth Scott here today. Say hi, ladies.
What's up? We're so excited to be here. We're ready.
I'm super excited. Let's do this.
We are ready to rock and roll. We have done our arts and crafts. We have learned math. Wait, that wouldn't be math. Would that be math? No, we were learning about rectangles and squares.
But
Fresh and
ovals
ready
are
to
the
go.
only shapes we should really care about as runners.
Yeah,
That's true.
need or not.
these 2 keep on adding to the list, and I can't. I've stopped humoring it. I've just stopped. But before we dive in to this 7-hour-long podcast, we're trying to compete with Joe Rogan's podcast on this one. And by compete, I mean absolutely that would be a I don't.
We're already better.
We're already.
Yes. That's right. If you know, you know, and we know. So before we dive in, let's have our guests introduce themselves. Let's start here with Toni. Tell us who you are.
Hello. My name is Toni Kengor. So I am a co-founder and running coach over at Relentless Runners. And I am a dog mom and I like to run and I'm right now I'm in my era of just like actually allowing running to take a back seat, and I'm learning and transitioning into this place of like just enjoying running and learning to not actually have tons of focus on training for races, which is like different for me. So yeah, this is just, I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about all the things. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. We love that. We love that era. Everyone should go through that and does at some point. It's how they embrace it is the question, right? So we love that you're embracing it and having fun with it.
Yeah.
And we're happy you're here.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Elisabeth Scott, the founder of Running Explained. I'm also a run coach. And Nick and Amanda, Amanda is a Running Explained coach. And obviously Nick and Amanda, both of them, Toni have been on the podcast. We are just one big, happy little running family. So my goal in life is to help people understand running from a, like, again, I love this, what you guys say, like, make fitness more human, but from a, here's the science, but also here's how you apply it to your life as a real person, and not run yourself literally into the ground, because this is our hobby. It should be fun, but it's also something that can be challenging to figure out on your own. And I'm here to make it enjoyable so you can feel like awesome sauce instead of hot garbage.
Yeah.
But not
the real awesome sauce.
That's right. The original. I know. I forgot. My God. Doesn't that feel like that happened like ages ago?
It does. I learned about it.
Oh yeah, the awesome sauce scandal.
I learned about it on this podcast because I don't know where my head was, but yeah, I learned about it. I'm like bebopping around in my run and I'm like, what? And I did all the research after. I'm like, what is this awesome sauce joke? Look, what drama happened? But yeah, thanks guys.
Drama.
What
era am I in right now? Toni, I think you and I are in a similar era. I've had just a weird year. I went through some like mental, just as a business owner, right? We all know like there's challenges, and so just the beginning of this year was really challenging. And then I was like, cool, I'm excited to kind of enter into this rest of the year. And then my husband got a new job, and so we are moving to a different state, which is all consuming, and we're in the process of doing that, which is why I'm in my old bedroom at my parents' house and not in my like lovely branded office, which no longer exists as we transition between houses. But it's so much fun to go for a run because you want to and it feels good, and not have to be like, I have to hit my splits, I have to do my thing, and you can just be like, this is for me. I love it.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I remember you saying you're in the midst of moving.
Yeah.
When do you guys actually go over to your new house?
So I don't have a house yet. So our house is under contract. And so it's being sold, and since it's
Elizabeth is
relocation,
building it. She's building it in her childhood bedroom.
Right. So we're gonna be living here
because
with my parents.
If you guys are watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, the way that Coach Elisabeth has just showed out on her need or nah sign. I mean, she's crafting her own home. She is the architect.
I don't think hot glue is up to code. I think they might frown on that.
Coach,
interior, architect, interior design,
does it all.
So we're in transition. So that's literally why I'm at my parents' house right now, is because we technically still have a house, but it's being sold. So I have to go essentially like find a new house, and then it's complicated, but I'm lucky in that it's, for all the complications, it's actually going pretty well. So,
good.
Yay. Let's not jinx it.
It is so hard to sell a house or buy a house when you own a house and you have to sell your own house. It's just,
oh my God, all of it.
Fun.
It's just,
but anyway, real world problems. But that's exciting for you and your journey ahead.
Your journey down to the mid-Atlantic coast.
You're gonna drive right by my house.
I probably will. I have to drive right through Baltimore.
Yep, you will.
Nick, you need some. Maybe Elizabeth can move in. Maybe she.
Yeah, maybe I'll just come hang out with you. I'll just move into your home that you've already told me you don't have. It's too small for your family.
Well, yeah, we can always fit more.
At least put an office in there.
At least let me share your office, Nick. At least let me use your treadmill. Like, I can see it. You're not even using it right now.
You can work on the treadmill. It's a treadmill.
Oh my.
This is so inappropriate. We are in the middle of a podcast.
All four of us are professional podcasters.
We are off the rails right now. Someone reel this thing in.
Who got past the do not disturb?
They must be important.
Not important enough. Not important enough. Is it time to dive in to the series? I think so. Let's I didn't even let you answer. I answered for everyone. It answers for everyone.
That's your pet peeve, by the way.
It is. It is my pet peeve.
I know.
Last time I did this to Nick, I was like, Nick, I had to identify it on the podcast and let him know that I hate that about others and myself, clearly. All right. Let's dive right in. We're gonna start. We got a fun episode lineup and fun topics, fun areas of exploration. We're gonna start with carbon-plated shoes. Is this a need or a knack for us as runners? And if somebody wants to chime in about how they feel about it as a coach, they're welcome to do that. Let's start there. Carbon-plated shoes, need or knack?
I go like this. So like,
oh my God, Elizabeth, between the fanage. So right now we have two Nas, myself and my perennial pal, if you know, you know, and we have two needs. Okay, so let's start with Elisabeth. What say you?
I love them. I really do. I remember buying. So first of all, I have the best story about buying my first pair of carbon-plated shoes. It's something I think every person remembers, like the birth of their first child or when they graduated from college. It was 20. Okay, I can't remember what year it was. It was in the late 20 teens. And they had come the first gen Vaporflies. They had just come out with the second generation model. Like they went from the next 4% to like the next percents.
5%.
Or the 5% better. And there used to be a Nike outlet right actually down the street from where my parents live, and I was in there one day, as one does when one is near a Nike outlet, because cheap stuff. And I went in the back where all the shoes are, and I saw a pair of carbon plated shoes like that you couldn't find. They were sold out everywhere, bright pink with that
That
like
was the time when
parachute,
they were always sold out back then.
I bought them for $110.
Damn.
Never been worn.
Wow.
And again, like they're you couldn't buy them anywhere, and they were in my size, and yada yada yada. And the weird thing is, when you first try on a pair of shoes, especially those specifically, because they're so marshmallowy and that's such big stack height, I was like, these feel so weird. And then I went on a run in them, and I was like, oh, I totally understand it now.
Yep.
I do not wear them for everything. Obviously, they're strategic about when and where. But I own 3 pairs of Vaporflies and a pair of Endorphin Pros, and then a couple pair of nylon plated shoes as well. So personally, I'm a fan, and I'm lucky for me that they work for my foot. And my pocketbook is unlucky for me that they work for my foot.
I had a dealer back in 2019 that would like alert me at the store when they knew like they had some, and they would like call me and be like,
Whoa,
call the store right now,
Nick.
give us your credit card and we will give you them. And I was like, I had to line right in to get those things, and when they
I
were
just know
unavailable.
you're about to. Somebody's gonna come for you on Reddit for that. That's not. That's illegal. That's illegal.
I didn't
That's
release my dealer.
illegal. I didn't release.
Nick is high profile. Like, special man gets special treatment.
Wow.
Were they the Vaporflies?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dang.
Do you still
But I
race in
agree.
them? And not literally that pair, but do you still race in Vaporflies?
I still wear the Vaporflies when I race. Yeah. To echo Elizabeth, technology, right? So like, is the shoe for everyone? Sure. There's some no, right? There's some debate on whether it helps people at like slower paces, right? Whether it really has an impact. But like, the reality is, as technology gets better, that's why people are running faster. Like, we all know every single world record's breaking, not just because everyone's getting better, we are, but like because shoes are advancing, and that's like their actual thing. So like, it does help you too. It helps you. The thing people don't understand is really it helps you train harder, right? That's the reality of what's happening at the highest levels, is people are doing workouts they couldn't do before because they can recover from them because they're wearing these shoes. Now, that's why I said maybe need or not, right? Because it's hard to afford that at a budget for everyone, where you just go through your carbon plated shoes and you wear them for your workouts and your long runs, and then you're recovered the next day and you can do more volume and this and that. It's expensive, right? So a lot of people, then what they do is, to save money, is they wear their carbon plated shoes well beyond what it says you're supposed to, because they're like, oh, well, it's still wearable, right? It's not a big deal. Like, okay, it's not super worn out. No, when you wear it too long, past the point where the foam and everything starts to go, you're wearing a shoe that is not supporting you the way it's supposed to, and you're running yourself towards an injury. So if you're going to do this, you got to go all in and say, I'm going to replace these things when they should be replaced, like not run them into the ground, not run through the foam, which is actually helping me. And now I'm just running on a carbon plate with no support. Like, that's fun. So
on rims.
So
yeah.
So like, it's neat or not, because it's a maybe, because like, yes, it will help you run faster, but you have to use them smartly and like in the way to help you train harder so you can race better.
I think
And
there's
that's
also
not for everyone.
There's a psychological component too, and like it's no denying that like all of my like really big PRs I have set wearing carbon plated shoes. Now, was it the shoes, or was it I was just super fit? Like, I would have probably set those PRs regardless of my footwear, but I happen to have been wearing those shoes while doing it. And so I think people also sometimes put too much like, oh, I can only achieve these performances if I'm wearing this like super expensive fancy footwear. And like, no, when you're fit, you're fit. The shoes are really the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I I did say nah, but there's kind of like a caveat to it. So the first time I wore carbon plated shoes, I was training for a half marathon, and this was actually just a couple years ago. Before that, I just wore like trainers, like regular whatever they had. But I had a great experience. So like and I'll get to like the issues that I experienced after that, but I had a good experience. At that time, I wore them on a couple like workouts like leading up to race day and then saved them for race day. So great, no problems. I had the Vaporflies. I forget what model, whatever was out in 2022. Fast forward to my marathon training cycle. I had gotten a couple pairs, and I was seeing people wearing them during like workouts. And I was like, oh, I kind of want to do this. And I had a intimidating workout on the schedule, and I was like, oh, well, this will be fun to like wear my like fun shoes for this workout. Give me that boost of confidence. How you were talking about the psychological side of things, and then honestly, like after that, I then started wearing carbon plated shoes for the speed portion of my speed workouts. And I wore them like regularly. That is when I transitioned to the gnaw thing, because I think because I was wearing them more often, my body actually did not like that. And then I think I just kind of did myself in, because there was one week where I did a speed workout during the week. It was a track workout. I did a long run workout over the weekend, and it was one of my last like long run workouts of training where I was like, yeah, I want to wear these. And then I had to like stop during my run and walk home, because like all of a sudden this like issue, like tightness issue popped up. I'm like, what the F is this? And then ever since then, I was like scared to wear, I didn't wear carbon plated shoes for the marathon because I was scared. So after that, when I then started training for a half, like more recently, I used the speed, like the Saucony Speed. They're on the Speed 4 now, but which that's the nylon plate one, right? But I've been wearing that more regularly for speed workouts, because it just, my body just feels better. And then I think I do want to use carbon plated shoes in the future, but I need to have that same approach I did the first time, because yeah, lower extremities, like they just weren't a fan of wearing them more often.
Similar. I will not repeat, but I similarly have I have a funny, we'll save it for another time. I have a funny shoe story. When Elisabeth and I met, I just said I would save it for another time, and here I am saying it. But I will say that for the Chicago Marathon, and Elisabeth and I had been working together. She hired me on her team, and then we met in real life. Like in security.
In the security line. And then that's when she's like, Elisabeth? And I was like, what? It's what, 5:30 in the morning. It's
Right.
like it's still dark out. We're all like, in our sweatshirts, like trying to eat our, and I was like, who is this person?
We were not planning. We were not planning. I'm like, it's me. I'm like, it's you're like, I didn't expect you to be that. You're this small human.
Who's this person who speaks to me as I should know them?
Hello. The shoes I wore for that marathon, I ended up asking. I did well at the marathon, but I noticed there was this periodic bubbling at the bottom of the shoe, and I won't name brands, but it rhymes with Chikey. Okay, so Chikey.
Nick's face when you said I won't name brands, and he was like,
and so it was bubbling at several portions, to the point where I thought that there was a cap on the bottom of the shoe that I kept on stepping on. And I was like, and I asked the homie behind me, because me, I'm gonna stop? No. So I'm like, is there a bottle cap on the bottom of my shoe? I'm thinking that I stepped on something.
yeah.
And he's like, no. And it kept on coming in and out of that race. I came home and I phoned a friend, because I was like, you guys are going to take these shoes back, because these were expensive. Brought them to the UPS store. The UPS store driver stole the shoes. I had to file a claim. This was a 7-month ordeal to get this money back.
Oh my God.
UPS. It was wild. And that's the reason why I don't wear it. No, I'm kidding. That's not the reason why I don't. I thought I feel very, I didn't, even after that, when I've tried carbon plated shoes in other brands, I feel very not stable, and I don't like that feeling. So I personally have opted out of carbon plated shoes. And I will say, based on what Elisabeth shared, I've only continued to perform better. And that's probably because of my fitness, and because I've increased my caloric intake, including carbohydrates, which for me works better than carbon shoes, either literally and psychologically.
Start with the carbs before the carbons.
Yes,
Ooh.
that's it.
Ooh.
That's
Cars
it.
before carbons.
I love it.
I mean,
I love it. Are we ready to move on? Wow, wow, wow. So many opinions already. Let's get to Strava. Is Strava or a need or a nah?
ooh, we agree.
Look at all of
Four
us.
NAS. For those who are not watching, we have 4 NAS for Strava. And let's start it out with I've already forgot because we've been talking so long about carbs and carbon plated shoes. Let's start with Elisabeth on Strava.
Yeah, I mean, I have Strava and that I have a Strava account. My personal my information on Strava has been private for years now because of just I don't want people knowing where I live, seeing where I can run, that sort of thing. And I also don't need to play the comparison game, right? It's I very few people that I know when they talk about using Strava have been like, yeah, they use it as a truly social media platform. It's always like, did you see what that person ran? Or like, oh my God, that person's easy run totally wasn't easy. Or like, oh my God, their easy run was so fast. Why am I so unfit? And why do I need to see everybody else's workouts when I can, if I know you, we can just have a conversation, right? So it's been a nah for me, dog, for quite a few years now.
For me, dog. I don't get it. I feel old saying this because I know people
Good
use
for
it as a
you.
social media platform, but I tried to do it. Creatively name my runs something really cool, oh yeah, I just came up with this, include notes about my workouts, and I just can't get into it. And then I see people who are the opposite, who they have, again, it's like social media where they have photos, videos, clever title, all the info, hundreds of people liking their runs, and I'm like, I don't know. It kind of one of those moments. I'm like, am I getting old and I'm phasing out of social media? But I know people older than me that are super into it. So I don't know, but I just don't get it.
Yeah, I've been using Strava since I think 2015. For me, it was a big jump. Was we used to use my running group and friends used a site called Running to Win, and that was literally a place where you just there's no GPS data or anything. This is old school, and you just write your workout. You can write how far you ran, notes about it, and then you can write a whole entire blurb about every single detail of your run. And then you're in a group, and all your group can read all these details, and it was a social, almost blog. People would write 5,000 words about an easy run. Oh, I saw a dog and he had a fluffy tail. And so then we transitioned over to
Do these
Strava.
people have journals by any chance?
I don't know, that might have been their journal, but
Okay. Just curious.
but it always had. So when we went to Strava, and Strava was like, oh, GPS data logs loads in, it's cool and blah blah blah. And so for me, it was social in the beginning, and it was fun, and you could see your friends' runs. But for me, I wouldn't go on there and see someone else's run and be triggered by it and be like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong and this person's doing anything right. I would just be like, oh, a friend did a run and that looks super hard. Or it was always fun when it grouped you up with your friends when you did a run together. And back in my more competitive days, Strava segments were fun to chase. But what I find putting my coach hat on, a lot of people go on Strava and they're using this as reasons why they're not fit or what they're doing wrong, or so and so is training for the same race and they're doing this long run at 12 weeks out. Why am I not? I'm unfit. And it's well, we don't have to make those connect any of those dots. That's just someone else's training looks totally different than yours. So yeah, I put nah because from a coach's perspective and in my own perspective, I don't really go on it much. I have enough social media sites. We got a visitor.
Puppy. Hello,
One
puppy.
of my dogs.
I'm dead. This is good.
Do a high
Everyone
five?
listening to this has to watch this for this one moment, clocked at around right before that 30-minute mark. You need to see who just entered. It was special guests. Yes, I sometimes forget to turn on my Strava. I'm completely private. I turn off all the calories, the start. I've been turning all that
I
stuff
got no
on.
maps.
I have no maps. Right. I have no maps. I just learned that people pay for Strava, which I'm not judging it. It's just like I just learned that like recently, and I coach runners perfect. I'm like, wait, you're paying for this now? I was like, oh my god. And I just feel as though I do really enjoy taking time after my run to. I have a actual journal where I literally record how the run felt, how much time I spent running. Was it a was it a hard run? Was it a long run? I document that there. And I find that to be very fulfilling for me personally. And, it's enough for me.
Yeah.
It's enough.
I think, if somebody's using it as their training log, like
Yes.
that's great. Like I totally understand that.
Totally.
And that's
Yep.
just not saying like you should never use Strava, but
Mm-mm.
again, like what's the goal here? What's the purpose? And Amanda, like you said, like you do log your training, you just do it privately, right?
Yes.
Like for you, rather than saying like, hey, complete strangers, like today I was in late luteal phase, so
Yeah.
it sucked,
Yeah.
but I worked through it. Like, no, I don't want the public knowing that.
Hashtag
Here-
cycle syncing. Yes.
Hearing you say that too, Amanda, maybe that's why I just like don't get it, because I'm the same where I like usually I'll use VDOT and like make notes in there so I can like go back, and I like to make that time for the reflection, but it's like I have that. And then from a social media perspective, I have my social media like to, if I want to like share things and connect with people, like I feel like I have that space, or even like you guys, like I get to connect with like you guys too about just stuff. So I guess that's where it's like this I don't get it thing, because I have all of those things. And maybe that's where people enjoy Strava, because maybe they're not on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, is out there, but that's their social media that they enjoy and they prefer. So yeah. Light bulb.
Hey.
Hey.
Copy that. All right. So you heard it here first, I guess, or second or third, depending on if you've heard us talk about Strava before. You don't need it, but again, if you want to utilize it as a log, and as we shared, do you. Speaking of doing you, shoe rotation. Is this something that we need or nah? Oh, I was worried. I was going to be okay. So, for
The fan
me,
gets me every time, Elizabeth. I hear the fan go.
A little shake it.
it
Little
honestly
shake it.
reminds me of, remember in Jurassic Park when the dinosaur comes out and it goes
The thing,
like that?
yeah.
Well, next time I'll make a Velociraptor themed one. We'll be
Oh
all
my
good.
god,
Perfect.
necessary.
Yeah, we
Although,
need more
yes, we know
themed.
that those Velociraptors don't do that, but they're the famous ones. That and the T-Rex.
She would say that. She would say that. Now
We love
everyone's
you for it.
fact checking. We love it.
We're gonna get community notes on here.
Yes.
Yep.
I can't wait. So shoe rotation, Toni. Why is it a nah for us? Oh, need.
No,
Oh my
I have
goodness, it's a
need.
need.
Like, I
We
need
need
It's
it.
a
it.
need.
We need it. Go ahead.
Give it to me.
Okay, so something to know about me. I am very extra about my shoe rotation. And I know that there may be some people that may judge, but I'll just share how in-depth, and maybe you guys are there too. So I like let's say like I'm training for something, for example, I like to have my shoe that I do my strides in, my shoe that I do my workouts in, my recovery my recovery run shoes, and then like usually for my long runs, sometimes I have like a long run shoe, but it's my like long run workout shoe. It just gets really expensive, so I need my shoe rotation. And then what happens is, like right now, I'm halfway through my 6 weeks of no running. But this has happened before when I've been returning to running. Then I'm like, okay, like I'm doing my run walks, like I'm running like 3 miles a week, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to get 2 shoes. And my husband reminds me so nicely. He's like, Toni, like I love you so much. I support your running. You're running 6 miles a week. Like you do not need like a shoe rotation right now. I'm like, yeah, but like this one just came out. And he's like, no, honey, no. So
It's a new
I'm
colorway, right?
it's
You
a
gotta
great
have colorways
colorway,
to
but I love it. Yeah. So I'm not proud, but if I'm being honest on this podcast, and I know you guys accept me for who I am very extra about my shoe rotation.
Now, I
Sure
want to
do.
know what was so the last serious cycle you went through that had that kind of rotation. What was in the rotation?
Okay. So I had my glycerin is like my recovery run shoe. My endorphin speed was my endorphin speed was my speed day shoe, which I then ended up liking for my long run workout shoe. And then new for me, normally not an Asics girly, but I like the Nova Blast. So I tried out the Nova Blast, and that's like my strides shoe because it's like I feel like they're light and I can pick up like pace and like can like turn it on a little bit. And then that was for half training. What was another one? I had one point. Oh, that was I felt very extra when I was doing the carbon plated shoes because that was like my carbon plated shoes were like my workout like during the week, and then I had a shoe for my long run workouts and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Wait, do you like do an easy run and then change your shoes to go do strides?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not that. No,
That's what
I'm not
s-
that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did do that for like speed, like track workouts. I was doing that, but that was to like reserve my carbon plated shoes. Like now,
Yeah.
like I'll just wear the speed fours like for the whole thing. Oh, sorry, the whole thing, and I'm good with that. But yeah.
Elisabeth, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. So for a while, my shoe rotation was pretty narrow in that I'm very much when I find something that I like, I'm just locked into that thing. And so for a long time, I was wearing pretty much exclusively Saucony shoes plus like the Vaporflies. So I would have the Saucony Rides were my daily trainer, kind of like workhorse all around shoe, then the Endorphin Speeds, and then of course the Vaporflies, and then like the Kinvaras, and that kind of branched out. I have a pair of Saucony track spikes, and I have a pair, I have the Peregrines I have 3 different versions of the Peregrine there's a trail shoe, but like a winterized version for icy stuff, and like a so blah blah. So, but it was very kind of like pretty narrow. So I essentially had a daily trainer, a workout shoe, like a carbon plated race shoe, spikes, which were so extra. Like I never ran track, but I
Very
really
impressed.
wanted a pair of spikes, and then trail shoes, and then as shoe companies do, after I'd been wearing their shoes for like 4 years, same model over and over and over again, getting the new one, getting the new one, getting the new one, they changed them. They went and they changed them, and I do not like the rides anymore, which is very disappointing because I have like 3 like new pairs in boxes that I just because I would mass buy them when they go on sale. And so I started branching out, and it's a lot more fun when you can wear a bunch of different kinds of brands. So my shoe rotation has really grown. But different shoes serve different purposes, and it's fun to feel like you are moving in a different way. Also, I do subscribe to the it's good to move in a different way when we are so repetitive in our sport.
Yep, agreed.
Plus, it's fun to buy shoes, so that's also a fun part
exactly.
of this.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I think shoe rotation's good. What I would say is, while I have a more extensive shoe rotation too, I'd say at a bare minimum, if you're getting into running, have 2 pairs of shoes. You don't need if you don't want because it will help the longevity of the shoe, right?
Yep.
There is science that says changing a shoe each day lets the sole sort of recover. The insole sort of recover better, and so your shoes will get a little more volume out of them. So just what I did and get the same exact shoe twice in the same color, so you don't know which one you wore the day before unless you mark it up. But like have 2 shoes and then just rotate every other day, and like that's at a bare minimum would just be helpful for getting more value out of your shoes. If you want to go down a road where you have like a shoe that like I do, like where you do have a long run shoe, but then you have a long run shoe and there's speed involved, and that's like the same shoe I use for speed days, and then a racing shoe that you only break out for racing. Just also remember too, like shoes can't sit on your shelf, and this happened during COVID for a lot of people. You can't just buy 10 pairs of shoes like racers, then go through 4 years without racing, and then be like, let me take out my Vaporfly. It's perfectly fine. No, it's not. The foam
still
will
breaks
go
down.
after time,
Yeah.
and it will break down super quick. So just be careful buying too many pairs of your same shoe. And then to Elisabeth's point, the shoe companies change the shoes every year. So just remember, like, just because you love the Brooks Ghost 38s, although the Ghost, whatever, they're not that high, but they haven't done that too much yet. But other models have definitely, like the Cliftons are a great example. The first one was amazing, and the second one shortened the toe box, and a lot of people, including myself, got Morton's neurome out of it because the toe box was short and it was pushing my toes together. So just keep in mind they do change shoes, and be aware of that when the models change. That it could affect the way the shoe wears on everyone.
So I didn't even know when I started running. I was living in Florida, and I unintentionally got a shoe rotation because, especially when you're living in a place like Florida or a place that has seasons, I would go for a run and I would sweat so much that my shoes would be soaked with sweat. And so I would have to, essentially, I needed to get a second pair. So the first pair could dry out for a day before I put them on again. And then I found out later, I was like, oh, it's called a shoe rotation. I thought it was called being disgusting.
Yo, I lived in Florida for a little bit, and that shit is real. Like,
It's
I
awful.
never, it is like, I had, yeah. I just visibly am remembering this one run. It was in June. I had my Brooks launch. I used to like love those shoes, but I was wearing my Brooks launch on a long run, and my feet were like sloshing by the end of it, and they were so heavy. It was wild.
And it's some sweat.
So just sweat, and like my legs were dripping so bad, which I know is like normal. It happens like everywhere, but it is just like on another level down there. Whew.
It is something else. I've never, and I know warming, blah, 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 and I've run in a lot of places, including like other places in Florida on the coast, but there's something about, I don't miss feeling like I had literally climbed out of a pool level of wetness while on a run.
I wanted to live in a place that was warm year round until like we lived there. It was during COVID, so we got stuck there for a while. But like until that happened, I was like, never mind, change my mind. I'll go visit warm places, but I can't do it year round. Amanda, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are that the shoe rotation is necessary for me. I remember Elisabeth put out a poll on her Instagram story asking folks to contribute to how many shoes, if they have a running rotation, are in theirs. And I was the one who selected the 10 plus. But to be fair,
No, did you do the follow? I had a follow up. If you answered 10 plus,
what was the question? If I'm using them all at once?
It's like if you pick 10 plus, there was a follow up poll. So it was like, all right, if you answered this, is it 10 to 15? Is it 15 to 25? Or is it like more than 25 pairs? So where are you on that?
Okay, I'm mid range.
Okay.
I'm the 50. But I don't, to be fair, I like what Toni just shared. I am in awe of her rotation. Like that's her like weekly rotation. For me, I can't keep track like that. I cannot journal that much, So I have I'm on the Brooks running collective team. So all of my shoes that I wear, number one, I enjoy wearing them. Otherwise I wouldn't wear them because we would not be happy. But I wear I'm a Ghost Max fan, and this is my long run and or easy shoe. I wear for speed workouts the Hyperion. And I wear, I've worn on races the Hyperion Max, which just has more cushion for the push-in. And Glycerin is another shoe that I alternate between the Ghost Max for a recovery shoe. So I have like 3 to 4 in a weekly rotation, really 3. And then I just have boxes of shoes that I have to go through. They're
impressive.
They're taking over the apartment. We may need to change locations in the Upper West Side.
Get a second apartment for your shoes.
Second
Yeah.
apartment.
Genius. Problem solved.
Yeah, it's that easy.
It sounds like the most cost affordable option, I think, at this point.
It could be a tax write-off, right?
I'm gonna try, Toni. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. What I know is that I'm gonna keep at this early retirement, and so far it's either my husband and my dog may need to move out if I'm continuing in this way. Okay, because I'll need space for the shoes. All right, let's move it along. We got marathons to talk about next. Marathons. Is running a marathon a need or a knack?
I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship when I say this.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what?
I agree with you.
No, we both. Okay. So professionally, Professionally, it's
nah.
this one for all of
Oh,
us.
totally.
For
Yeah,
Naz,
yeah.
but I'm aligned with you, Elizabeth, on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Personally, it's a need.
Oh,
It's a
personally, I'm still nah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. All right.
I feel like
Coach
that scene in Brokeback Mountain where he's like, I just can't quit you. That's me in marathon.
tell us about your love for the marathon, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's such a tricky beast, but when you get it right, there's kind of nothing else that feels like it. Except for most of us, I know for me, so I've run 6 marathons. Most of those I have not gotten right, but the few that I have, it has been most of those I have not gotten right, but the few that I have, sorry, you're gonna have to edit this out. My dog is like shaking. Most of the marathons I've run, I've not gotten right, but the few that I have, it's something that you kind of chase, like really. But it's hard, you know. Marathons, I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in just the marathon and the exclusion of other things, and so I know that I am not done with the marathon specifically. But I also know that like it is absolutely not the only thing, but there is something that it just keeps calling like, hey. And I was even earlier this year before I had my life stuff kind of go sideways. Like I was training for an ultra. Like I was ready to tackle an ultra before I was ready to like return to the marathon. So yeah, there's something very specific about trying to race a really good marathon. That I am still chasing that dragon, man.
Feel that.
Yeah.
What about you, Toni?
I struggle with this answer because I feel like I agree with Elizabeth where even when I've had time away from the marathon and I've gone through seasons where when I first started running, like I played soccer in college. Running was the thing that I got into after I retired, like from playing soccer. I was scared of running, so I said no to a lot of like races, and then my friends wanted to sign up for like color runs and stuff that was going on back then, which were so fun, and I low key want them to come back, because I never got to participate in them. But my first race was a half marathon, and I got like so hooked, and then my second race was a marathon, and I got really hooked, and then I went through the cycle that Elizabeth talked about where it's like I kind of like overdid the marathons where I ran 2 a year back to back to back like years, and then I got burnt out from it. And then after that, like I returned to it. I kind of did it again though because I got like really greedy and hungry about Boston and then burnt myself out again. And then I feel like I have a healthier relationship with the distance now, where I know that I don't need to, like, if Boston happens, awesome, but I'm not like stressing about like need to run one before the cutoff in September so I can like throw in my name, and it's not the end all be all. It's not my identity anymore. But even with that, like I just keep going back to it. So even now, yeah, I'm really enjoying the season that I'm in and running for fun. So I have let go a lot, and it's not something that I feel like I absolutely have to like go back to, but it just calls you. Even if it's like every couple years or like every few seasons, it's like, what if we just did this for fun though? Like, what if we can race it? But like me and Nick were talking recently about running marathons for fun. And I was like, I love that. Like, I love that for you. I love that for me. So yeah, it's hard. It's always there.
It's also something, and I think that's kind of the naivete of inexperience, that when you are new to marathoning, you don't quite appreciate how much it really takes out of you. And the longer that you do this, and the more that you are like, the more that you learn and the more that you know and the more experience you have, you're like, wow, like to do this properly, quote unquote, however you define that, right? Whether it is racing for a time or running to have an experience in a certain way, to really do the marathon properly requires not just like the investment of the actual training cycle, but like you have to train to prepare for the training cycle, and then you have to be so kind of focused on, you know, do I have time for this? Have I done my strength? Do I have time to prioritize all these things? And like to really give it, I think, the respect that is due. Because it's a big deal. And I'm not saying this in a way to gatekeep. I love how popular marathons are, and I love how inclusive marathons are becoming with more generous time cutoffs and more well-staffed aid stations. But at the same time, a marathon is a really big deal, right? And I think that we need to really train for it as if it's a big deal because it's a big deal, and that's not going to be something that's just possible every season.
Yeah, and so
Agreed.
for me, why it's a not is so I grew up, but I grew up differently for a lot of people in the sport. I grew up, running track in college and high school, and like doing shorter distance races like 5K, and the steeple was my race. And so like this Olympic trials, Olympics and everything, like this track season is like so exciting to me. I love all these races and I know what really goes into them. So, for me, I feel like the marathon gets over glamorized, and it has happened in the last. I think social media almost has created the marathon to be, because like
I do
pre-Instagram, like
agree.
pre-Instagram, like it was, you would just be with your friends, you'd be talking, you're like, oh, I'm training for a half. Everyone's like, that's so cool. Wow, you're doing a half. Oh, you're doing a hard half. We know how hard that is. Oh, you're doing a 5K too. That's super hard. Yeah, and then it became, oh, you're only doing a half. Why wouldn't you do the full? Oh, you're only training for a half, like a 5K. Like, why would you even do that? Like, that's not even hard. Like, anyone can run a 5K. And it's like, no, running a 5K all out to chase your personal best and run all your fitness is literally the hardest thing there is. Like, go if you actually can put in the time and effort, not just run it as like a race during your marathon block where you're just like, oh, whatever. Like, it's hard. All these races are hard, equally hard. And so for me, it's like a love of all the distances, a love of like the excitement that goes into things. And just like the general idea that like many people do a marathon just because it's the furthest and don't really, like you said, Elisabeth, accept what really is needed to do it, and end up really broken down and hurt when, like, become a half runner. Like, you can just be someone who specializes in the half or 5K and have fun with it. Like, you don't have to run a marathon just because Instagram thinks it's the coolest thing to do. Like, every race is cool, and a PR and a fast time and a half is just as cool as a marathon.
I love that answer so much, Nick.
I think a well executed PR 5K is actually more challenging than a marathon.
Agreed.
I completely agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
It's so hard because it's so hard to get that time. Like, you go out busted, you go out so fast early on, and you're like flying, and you're like trying to like teeter on this line of like 93% of like all out pace, and like, but like getting there at the end, like you never have a feeling like the last 800 to 1200 meters of a 5K. You never feel it once in a marathon. If you did, then you're probably dropping out of your marathon because you definitely went too hard. But yeah, it's all the distances have that sort of fun level to them when you race them, and truly race them, not just do them as a, oh, well, you should do a half before a marathon, so I'll just put this thing in here and run it, after my long run the day before. It's like, well, it's not really a race. Anyway, I digress.
Yes, I have not. I enjoy the marathon personally because I really enjoy training, and I've said it before, and I really mean it. If I think I would train that way as long as I was healthy and happy, and even if there wasn't a race on the schedule. I really enjoy the training for the marathon, and I've also made an experience where it's private. It's for me, and I don't share what marathons I'm training for. I don't share what race plans I have in general, and I make it like an experience where my dad and I, and these last few years, my dad and I make it a weekend, and it's really special to me. Could I do that with a half? Yes, and I have. And I think that's why when somebody comes to me and they ask, they're, and this has happened, oh, I have an opportunity to run the marathon, but I don't really love running. Is this something I should do? No. The answer is no. It's a nah.
Yeah.
It's a nah from Coach Elisabeth. All coaches say nah. No, because it's we should not be doing anything we don't enjoy. And on top of that, it is a huge thing to not enjoy doing for the time commitment
Yes.
it will take. So
Yeah.
it's a nah for me as a coach, but personally, I love training for it, and I love the experience around. On to the next one. On to the next one. Okay. Long run workouts. Is this a need or a nah?
I know. This is a yeah.
This
Ha.
is so it's yeah. So okay. So we have Toni. I know.
I mean, I'm in need. I feel like for our listeners, like I'm in need.
Right.
Okay,
Oh
so
yes,
for my-
thank you, Elisabeth, for taking the role of host. No, she's right. So no, she's right. And this is what you get with 4 podcast hosts on running podcasts. So need or nah for it, it's a need and a nah for Toni and I, and it's a need for Nick and Elisabeth. So we're going to start with Toni. because she has the same answer as me, and that means she has to be right. So,
oh, how I love you. I love them. My need comes from a place of like mentally, I like them because they build my confidence for whatever my race maybe, and more so for half and full marathons, we'll say. They're kind of my confidence building runs when I go back to reflect on my training. Those tend to be some of the workouts that I like to look back on. And then even ones that I think are great from like like dress rehearsal for a race. So like practicing your fueling and all of that. Fueling, race day fit, race day shoes, like all of that stuff. I really love them for that reason. However, like my past training cycle, it was like before I got hurt, but what I noticed, and I guess this is more nuanced, but my body actually responded well to a workout during the week and then logging like easy miles during the weekend. So like it's one of those things that I do enjoy the long run workout. And I think they can be incorporated like strategically, like in my training, maybe in a different way moving forward. But my body really likes like a workout during the week and then just easy miles on the like for my long run. So that's where I struggle.
makes sense. Elisabeth, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the whole what Toni said, it's just like, what's the purpose and strategically including them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody should be going out and having every single long run be a long run workout, right? That's not how we do anything. I've definitely had the experience in past training cycles. Like there was a race I trained for like it was before COVID, where I essentially left my race in training. Like I left my race in my long run workout, and that sucked because it was one of those experiences where like, oh my god, I just did this monster workout, like I'm so fit for race day, and then like 2 weeks later I was essentially still recovering from my long run workout. And so it's super easy to overdo it and kind of get carried away. But yeah, I mean, I love a good long run workout, especially since there's many different ways to enjoy long runs, and sometimes you just want to get out there and spin up your easy miles and just like have a good time. But sometimes it is fun to challenge yourself in different ways, even if it's more of so many ways that you can put these together. But I really do enjoy them, even if it's something like just challenging yourself to a fast finish, or whether it's strategic on pace or effort or whatever it is. But yeah, I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing long run workouts my entire career. So again, for me, like it's just been the way it is. Like, sure, I do easy aerobic long runs too, just to build some endurance. But most of the time, a long run workout is part of my routine. And so, what I find is a lot of athletes have never done them before. Like, interestingly enough, a lot have never like they're like, this is the first time I've ever done anything in my long run. So for me, like that is a challenge. The whole point of training people is to try to take them out of like their comfort zone to do things they've never done before, to see how they respond, obviously, not just be like, you have to do this new thing or you'll fail forever, but like trying out new things. Like if someone tells me that they've never done this before, oh, we're going to do it and we're going to try it out, and I'm going to give them parameters on how to do it, but it is something different that can get them fitness, because if they just do the same thing over and over again, you sort of get stagnant. And so for me, it's that variety. And a lot of people come back and they're like, oh my God, it's broken up the long run. It's so much, 20 miles didn't feel that hard when I had a workout in it. But like, I also find that like, if I give someone 20 easy or 18 easy, they'll go run it at marathon pace, the whole thing, like without some parameters too. And so like, sometimes I have to like either be careful in saying, hey, you can't run this 18 miles all at marathon pace. But when I give them a workout with like speed in there at marathon pace or faster, then they really come, like, let's say it's like 4 miles easy and like, 2x3 at marathon pace and then 4 miles easy. They will run those first 4 miles very easy, much slower than marathon pace, because they're worried about the workout in the middle, or they're worried about picking it up and making it. And then they'll run the workout, if they're a little fast on their marathon pace, it's whatever. And then they'll like cool down at the end and like run a calm, easy pace at the end. And I'll find they'll really stay within the parameters they should for the long run if they have it designed already, versus like, oh, just go run 18 easy. And it's like, oh, I did the whole thing at marathon pace. I'm like, no, like that's way too fast. Like we should never, anyway. So I like it for reasons of like, for athletes who've never tried it, for kind of setting up parameters for long runs and sort of like just giving that variety.
Yeah. I think that's great in terms of assignment. I, for one, will, I shared this on my threads. I like to share random things on there. This Saturday was the first time that I ever did a long run with a workout in it.
Thoughts, feelings, emotions.
Ooh, so first of all, what'd you do?
Yeah. Tell
I'll
us.
just share that on here.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed
we'll be your Strava.
So here's my Strava. So I had uh I run by time. So it ended up being about a little over 19 miles. And the last the and then I had a cool down mile after I was done. So I did 5 in that latter chunk at something that many people don't know about me because I don't share my race plans is that I really don't I talk to my mom on all of my long runs if and the majority of my runs, like 95% of my runs, are solo. So it's like 2 to 3 hours of talking to my mom, and
Oh.
trust that it's talking the whole time through ShopRite. She's in Target. I'm in the interaction with her in the vehicle, saying something, about the person cutting her off. So so I'm genuinely running at a conversational effort. And so this was a longer run, and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I actually want to run the last portion of this run faster than I have. So I'm going to hang up with you. And Nicki Minaj is going to go on. So so I guesstimated like what a marathon effort would be like in my body. And it was the first time I did it. And so, and I encourage this I think I literally met my fitness where it was. And I was able to see like, oh, okay. And then I was able to get a little faster with each of those 5 miles. So that was I genuinely had fun. And so it's something that I will do again because I had fun. And
Hey.
and my mother will know next time. She'll be like, oh, gotta hang up with this one.
Nicki Minaj has got to
Nick,
show up for
just
work. That's so
start.
awesome though, because they are fun. It's always exciting when yeah, you just like try something different in your training. And I know that you're like experienced in the like we all like have a experience in the running space, but it's so fun when you get to like try something new yourself. And it's like this little light bulb moment of like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so fun to like add to the training. That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you for accepting me.
Always.
Who I am. For who I am. Something that I for one will not accept. Next topic. Run streaks. Run streaks. Is it a need or a nah?
Nah.
Nah.
We got 4 nahs, and I've I have short-term memory loss. So Elisabeth, I don't remember if you were the last, but now you are the first. Let's go over why run streaks are a nah for you.
This is a hardcore nah. I did one. I have the, some people will say or have an informed and educated professional opinion on something. I have that. And I also did this. So I have the personal experience of having done a run streak. I did a run streak for 2.5 years, which is an insane thing to say now.
Like
in
a
retrospect. Like I ran
yeah.
at least a mile every single day for a little over 2.5 years. And yeah, I think it's incredibly disordered. I think it is exercise addiction masquerading as dedication to your fitness. Because somebody else might raise their hand and say, but I would never do that, or I don't do that. But you're going to get sick. I ran when I was sick. I ran with food poisoning. I ran when I had the flu. I ran when I was injured. I ran on nights where I had gotten 2 hours of sleep, getting off a red eye. I ran in a hurricane. I ran in a thunderstorm. And those are just some of like the other just variety of things that I can remember off the top of my head, because life happens. And you can't tell me that there is not a single day in any given month or year where, hey, you shouldn't have gone for a run. So no, I am very down on run streaks. Period. Don't do them.
I don't even know how to follow that. Drop the mic.
Hashtag no notes.
No notes. The one thing I actually will add, because I've had when I've had conversations with people who are they're run streakers transitioning into non-run streaking, but they still have a hard time taking the rest. So maybe they fill what would be a run day with something else. They'll say, oh, well, I feel like crap that next day that when I take off from a run or doing something, I then feel like crap. And I'm like, well, yeah, your body's still tired. Like your body's tired. That's probably why you don't
That's
feel like
That was my
great.
justification. I was like, if when I take rest days, the run after my rest day, like I feel really creaky and kind of flat. So I would just run every day. So I never felt that. And then, long story short, it ends badly. But that's very common because Toni, yeah, like you said, yeah, you're feeling that way because your body is recovering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on top of
I
that,
have, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just saying, other than that, like, agreed, no notes. Like, you nailed it, Elisabeth.
We had Stephanie Roth Goldberg on, and she is a psychotherapist, and she actually spoke about why what happens to your brain when you don't have that thing that you are getting your dopamine, your endorphins. So that's actually, it's a normal feeling. It's a normal feeling. And it's why also after a race, when you're in your recovery phase, you may feel low. So there is actually uh, it's more than the body. The brain is processing the rest and it's not getting that hit that it was getting when it was in movement. So I just wanted to share that that's a real feeling. And if you
That's why my therapist actually worked with me on this because I was struggling so hard after like getting injured recently. And I was like, I can't get myself out of this. And there was like deeper levels that I won't get into, but she did share that where she was like, we need to find other areas like of your life that can kind of give you that hit that like make you happy. Like, what are other things that just make you happy? And so I just wanted to share that because I'm sure there's runners out there that may struggle with that, like when they're having forced rest or being told by like a coach, like maybe one of you amazing people, it's like, no, we need more, like your body needs more, that it may be really hard on you mentally. But yeah, like not being afraid to lean into, there are other parts of you that make you. And what are these other areas of your life that you can lean into that still make you happy? Running is one of those things, but they're guaranteed there's other things that can do the same. And it can be simple, doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah, and as like, as coaches, right, like, you can help your athletes with that, right? Like how do you help, like, so I always say like bring running along with your life, don't stop your life for running. But like as a coach, how do you help celebrate your athletes moments that aren't running, right? Because like if they feel they hire a coach and they're like, the coach only says good things about me when I do a great workout or a great run or I don't miss my runs or this and that. Well, then they've created this dynamic with you where they're trying to sort of impress you or social media or whoever else that running is the only thing that's about me, right? And so people get scared of sharing other parts of their lives and like because they don't think anyone will be excited about it. But like when you have, especially as a run coach, if you can celebrate people's moments and things they get through that have nothing to do with some number on a watch, that helps them so much. And that's why run streaks happen, is because sometimes people feel like that's the only rush they get is when, oh, you ran for 2000 days, you're amazing, like that, you must like be so dead, and then like that they don't have this joy elsewhere and they're turning to this as like this thing that fixes everything in their lives. And I'll just say like also like, when you're training for specific goals, it's almost impossible to have a designed plan that revolves around never ever taking a rest day. So if it's just like I never want to PR, I never want to run a race to some certain standard, and you just want to run every day, okay, like you still should rest, but like whatever. But if I want to run the best marathon of my life, and I also never want to miss a day, it's like that plan does not exist. It's nowhere. Like it's not a thing.
So talking about kind of the feedback loop that some coaches may have with their athletes, when I have an athlete who notes like, hey, I took an unplanned rest day, or like I swapped something around, or like I had cut this short, because I'm like, I heap praise. I'm like, I am so glad
Yes.
you made that decision, that
Same.
this is awesome for you, like this was
Yep.
so awesome that you had the mature blah, that I the notes in Final Surge on the like, hey, I skipped this because I needed a rest day. I'm like, awesome, you
Yes.
are amazing, this is so great, I hope you have the best rest day, like let me know if you need anything, just like we would celebrate a PR or a big workout.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Same. It's so
That is,
important.
yeah. If your coach isn't hyping up your rest as much as your work, you better find a new coach. You better find a new coach. I agree with everything, and I will just simply say that what Elisabeth said is is the reality of run streaks. They are disordered behaviors. And one thing I've heard that, and I heard it recently on a podcast, and it's not true. I've heard people say, well, this is a healthy addiction. It's not.
There's no such thing as a healthy addiction by definition.
It's not. Right.
Just the definition of an addiction is something that's actually bad for you.
It's not good. It's not good. It is not good for you to engage in running every day, or really any exercise every day. Okay. So we're gonna move it along.
Moving on. That was
Oh.
good.
I feel like this might have to be a two-parter.
Yeah.
Like you're
I'm
gonna have
to-
we have this big recording and it's gonna have to be 2 episodes.
I'm gonna have to speak to my associate about that. That's you, Nick.
Oh, me.
That's
Um,
no, her other associate.
the next up, we're going to talk about changing one's running form. Is it a need or a nah? Is it?
I love how none of us are putting our signs up. I'm
It has to. Okay, so Elisabeth and me are saying it.
Are both.
Depends.
I'm
It
twirling my
depends.
sign around
She's
so you get
twirl-
both sides.
She's twirling, and we have Nick and Toni on a nah. Toni, why don't you start us off?
I know why. Well,
We
not to give away.
Oh, she's gonna
Give
secret.
it.
spoke-
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about this. Well, so I'm the one that wanted to talk about this just because I'm in this era of like simplifying running and training, and so that's where this is like coming from, that place. And I think because when I got into running, it was so simple, and have been a part of the transition of like my first marathon. I didn't wear a GPS watch. Like what? And I just ran it, and like wasn't hyper focused. Like I trained and I was consistent with my training, but yeah, I wasn't. It was just simple. So getting back to that, and I am someone who I did critique my form a long time ago because your girl was overstriding, like reaching out, leaning back. My race photos, if you look up Toni or Antoinette Dorenzo Chicago Marathon 2017, there's some photos from later on in the race that are like, ooh, that hurts, like to see that you ran like that. So I did like critique things so that I wasn't doing that. So kind of what Elisabeth was speaking to from front streaking, like I do have experience from doing that and can speak to this. However, I do think that there are some topics in running that become overcomplicated and we don't need to hyper focus on them. So that's more of why I say my nah. Like, yes, there may be a time and a place to do it, but I don't think that it's like absolutely necessary all the time. So that is my thoughts. Like and even you hear a lot of physical therapists speaking to this too. I know Vicky has talked about it. One of our coaches is a physical therapist. She preaches this as well, where it's like it's okay to heel strike. Like it's important to make sure that, your foot is landing more like beneath you and everything. But there are certain things that, certain philosophies on like running form are big no, like you cannot do this. And I don't think that that's the case. So that is my thoughts.
Yeah, Toni, I love what you said about, simplifying things. I talk a lot about how running can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Because it can be really simple, but you can make it really complicated. And some people get really lost in the weeds about making it really, really complicated. And there are a lot of, and that's kind of why I was twirling my sign around, is that, hey, if there are obvious problems in the way that you are moving, and it's not even about running form, it's really about your form as a function of your ability to move while doing a certain activity. And if there are problems with that, if you are overstriding, if you're hinging at the hip, if you're leaning back, like if there's problems in that ability to move properly, we got to fix that. But that's not about changing your running form. It's about, let's just figure out how you can move better for you, and fix, or change the stuff that we know is bad. Overstriding is bad. Heel striking is not bad. I think there are, again, I think some of these buzzwordy, like, oh, if you just fix your running form and like run faster, or you need to do these 3 things to optimize your running form. Like those things are the problem. And I've talked to so many runners over the years who have come to me and said, well, I read somewhere about so-and-so with my form, so I changed such and such about my running form. And now I'm injured, or it hurt. Mostly I'm injured, or it hurts, or like it feels weird, or like it doesn't feel right. I'm like, then stop doing that. They're like, but I read.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, but that was not meant for you. So, yes to moving well in our bodies, need to move well in our bodies, nah to just changing running form because you think it needs to be changed.
It's like
no reason.
supplementing just because you think that you should take an iron supplement. But
Right.
it's like, unless you have a deficiency, like you don't need to.
Yeah. And so I find so many things happen to runners with all this information. And like, we always hear 180 stride rate, cadence is the most important thing. And so then all of a sudden you see runners and they're like, oh, I'm at 175. How much for my form should I change? It's like, no, that's not a thing. First, like the 180 myth has already been disproven a million times. It doesn't matter. But like everyone will just bring it up because it was mentioned one time when someone was observing some elite athletes at a marathon in the Olympics. And that's how it started, right? So cool. That's where we got our sample size. Let's just use that forever. No. So, but what happens is now, because this magic number gets thrown out there, everyone thinks that their form is wrong if it's not that exact number, and they're not moving efficiently. They're not moving fast enough. So we got to change our stride. We got to adjust. So I always say nah, because like, unless there's an injury unless there's something causing injuries, unless there is something glaring wrong that like, is causing a problem, like, you should have some sort of forward lean a little bit, right? That's gravity and that's physics helping you run forward, right? If you're leaning back every stride, every step, then you're pulling against gravity, right? So don't do that.
And that's my PR. That's my marathon PR. That's my marathon PR race.
But so
I'll find the photo for you.
But so that's like where I lean on, like, when there's so much information out there, like, stop worrying about the 1%. If you're not getting hurt from your form, then just keep it up, get it more fitness. And then you may find, as you get more fit, you may find your stride cadence picks up and your stride picks up just from fitness alone, right? So don't get caught up in all that noise.
Your body is very smart.
Thank you. It is.
Your body is so smart. So smart. All right. We got a couple more that we're going to go through. And we're on hour 5. If you're keeping
Remember to hydrate, get a snack.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last two, you may need to last two.
Can I just say, can we do the second to last one as well?
Oh, we're having I'm sorry.
All right, we can.
Elizabeth thinks this is a democracy. And she will allow it. We'll allow it. So second to last. All right. So the last. So we'll have
There's
3
3
more.
left.
Okay. Copy.
Yeah.
You want to do that one first, Elizabeth?
Sure.
Okay. Wow. This just. I just like too much happened.
I feel
Who's
like
the
she
host?
needs to lead.
Hand it over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand it over. to her.
Elizabeth's basically the host at this point.
Wow.
Do not-
Unbelievable.
Don't put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby.
Good one. All right. So finishing runs on round numbers. Is this a need or a nah?
I need to.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I am
heard
in
it here,
shock.
Toni.
Okay. So Amanda and Nick, the 2 coaches on Between Two Coaches, say it's a nah. And the others said it was a need.
The outsiders.
The outsiders.
Oh
my
Elizabeth.
goodness.
I would like to say that my definition of a round number is incredibly loose. So, because depending on whether I'm running by time or distance, it's essentially just like for the minutes, it's literally the nearest minute, like the nearest like whole minute. So if I ran 41 minutes and 39 seconds, I will run to 41 minutes. And for distance space, it is the nearest 0.05 mile. So it's not like, oh, I passed my mile marker, I have to run another 0.89 miles to, like, no, it is something about, and this came
You need a
out
legend
of,
to like
I know.
work with
The
your
rules.
So this is how you interpret my training. No, and this came out of when I used to keep this like gigantic spreadsheet of all my training, like, separate from my Garmin data when I was a Garmin user before I started wearing Koros. And I essentially had this gigantic spreadsheet where I would track runs in a very like meta way. So I had all my run data that I would plot into a graph, and then had a trend line on it. So it essentially proved to myself, hey, running
None
slower.
of this surprises me.
I am not surprised at all. Not at all. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no one
hey,
among us.
your zone 2 running, even though you're slowing down over time, guess what? The trend is you're getting faster. So that's when it started, because I was really easy for me to be like, all right, so my weekly, I just liked seeing like rounder numbers when I was like looking at all my data, rather than being like, and this one's a 0.81 and this one's a 0.07. And so that's just where it came from. And I like it. And I still do it to this day.
Coach Elisabeth is a freak in the Excel sheets. We did not know. We did not know, but we certainly could have guessed.
Could have guessed. Oh, I love how we all were not surprised. We're like, yeah, of course. Of course. I agree with you. I agree with you with the minute. So when I do my runs, when it's based off of duration, I do get, I'm like, the nearest minute is fine. So agree with you there. For me, I'm on the same page when it comes to like, it doesn't have to be 8 miles, like 8.0 on the dot. It could be flat. It could be 0.2. I'm a 0.25. So 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. I'm good. Other than that, I'm like, what's happening? But then there's the outliers where it's like, it can also be 6.2, 13.1, 3.1. Like those are all round numbers in my head too. So it's very nuanced, but
non-round numbers.
Right.
yes,
So,
yes.
So here's what I love for the audience to hear. Everyone listening at home, and all you people who have to do this, like, you listen to these two well-respected coaches go through their parameters on why, how, and just realize how ridiculous this is, and that you don't need to do this at all, right? Because like, if you need this many rules to define why you need it, then you don't need to do it. And so what I always take with this is the last thing, which I saw on Steve Magnus wrote this once about this exact idea, and he said, the whole idea of running is to be somewhat uncomfortable and uncomfortably uncomfortable, right? And so if it is so needed for you to do this thing where you have to round on some parameter, some round number that makes you feel good, absolutely don't do it. Then try not to do it, just to feel that uncomfortableness that you're going to feel in all your races and all your training and all your hard workouts. And it doesn't mean to do it every time. Maybe you could do it a couple times and then go back. But like, you should try and
Toni
be uncomfortable
is
at times.
Her head
I know.
hard.
She's
and
vividly
hard.
angry. She just shook her fist at me, and
I will say I only do this for road runs. On a trail run, anything goes.
This area has so many asterisks for you.
I know.
Trail runs don't follow these
have
rules.
No rules whatsoever.
Goodness. I have a headache writing all the terms and conditions for both of your runs. Remind me not to coach either of you. Remind me. No, that is amazing.
It's, I mean, with the athlete thing, like, this is so arbitrary. You don't need to do it. And I talk to my athletes, I don't care if you round up or round down.
No, not at all.
What we're doing is generally appropriate. If I wrote that hey, you were supposed to do 7 miles, but you passed 7, and you were at 7:05 when you looked at your watch, and then you had to run 8 to get to that round number, then we're gonna have a conversation, right?
Yes.
That's about appropriateness of rounding.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
There's a guidebook. Nick,
I'll write it. It's going to be pages. It'll be color coded. Don't worry. You're going to have all the tools you need.
What I always said, Elizabeth, there's a post for that already, probably on her Running Explained somewhere.
The post that I said is probably you don't have to do this. This is totally arbitrary, which is
one of
true.
those things. Coach hat off.
Yeah.
No, this is one. Right. This is what we call a personal problem. That's what.
I like the word preference. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. That's fun. I liked that. All right, we're gonna move it along. We're gonna go back to where we were. We're gonna talk about, is zone 2 training a need or a knack?
I mean, what's the definition of zone 2 here? Like zone 2 specifically?
I know where you're going. This is why, but that's good, because
that can be part of
that's a part of the conversation.
Well, which
Yeah.
zone 2, right? Because each watch, some watches have a 5-zone system and some have a 7-zone system. Like, so what are we doing here? Like, this is why this is dangerous, and this is why so I even get the concept of zone 2 is.
Oh, I see
like,
that Nick is
so
going to start. Okay.
I'm just
Go,
jumping
Nick.
in. This is my show, and
Do
I'm
it.
gonna speak, and no one can stop me.
As you do.
No,
Go
because
off, King.
like I struggle with this because, again, sometimes my opinions when it comes to need or notting things, when it comes to this forum and our podcast, is because what I see the community doing, which is like going obsessively in the wrong direction because of this. And that, like, so 8 years ago, maybe someone doing zone 2 training, a lot of people probably trained by it. They did fine. They followed their system. They weren't obsessing whether it was 100% all in zone 2. So they could show some nice bar on their Strava or their Instagram and like post, I was 99.8% zone 2 today. I failed my run. Like, because that's what we're doing, right? So we don't need that nonsense because that's not any of this, right? And so, and now we're using risk-based products that are 10% accuracy rate to then judge whether they're in the right zone. And so anyway, is zone 2 a measure for being in the right parameters for doing a run? Sure. Have we ruined it and turned it into a terrible training ideal and model because of how the community has embraced it and ruined it? Yes, we have. And we need to that's where I want us to break away from it, because we're now using it in the wrong way. Everyone couldn't handle the idea that there's conversational pace and just going at an easy effort. So they needed some system to prove whether they're doing it right or wrong. Lo and behold, zone 2 could tell you if your watch says 100%, you're right. And there's no listening to your body. There's no feelings around it. It's just my watch tells me I did it right, then I did it right. Because people can't accept that if you can just go on a run with your friend or even by yourself and you can conversate, that's good enough. So off my soapbox, that's my problem with this.
I think
So
zone
juicy.
2 going. Sorry, Toni. I know this is.
No, go. I just said so juicy. Nothing important. Go ahead.
Zone 2 becoming a mainstream fitness trend, I think, has done a huge disservice to the fundamental concept of what, quote unquote, zone 2 training actually is.
Yeah, I agree. And I did put up nah, but it's for the same reasons as Nick. And that's where I think it's hard, because for us as run coaches, like, we know how to gather all of this information and filter through it and know how much to take this information with a grain of salt when it comes to like maybe our training or athletes training. But I think like that's where it's hard for someone who's not a coach or in the coaching space. They just like learn something. I think sometimes they just like get excited about like knowing something that can benefit their training, and that becomes the end all be all. But I agree. And I think I agree with Nick and it reminds me a little bit when you were talking, Nick, about losing sense of being intuitive with like how you're feeling, paying attention to how you're feeling. I actually had a similar experience actually using the Whoop band. So I wore the Whoop band, and I can't say highly, like, I learned so much from it. Like, I learned about different types of things and how certain things impact recovery, drinking wine, how it impacts like my sleep, not fueling as well. Like maybe I was like shit at fueling because I was going nonstop with working one day, and I like snacked for my lunch, but I didn't have a full lunch. And it's like I slept like shit, and then I didn't feel good the next day. Like there's a lot of really good positives from that. But I then got to a point where I would wake up, see what my Whoop score was. And even if I felt okay, I saw that it was maybe lower than where it needed to be. And I was like, oh, I feel like crap today. I guess my run's going to be shit. And then I didn't rely on how I was actually feeling anymore. And so that was really interesting. And that's why I don't use it anymore. But Nick, you saying that just reminded that like personal experience.
Never let your watch tell you how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so, and obviously I think people who might be familiar with me is saying like, but doesn't she talk about zone 2 all the time? I do, because it's the accessible way that we talk about easy running, which is really the fundamental concept of what zone 2 is trying to describe, which is this intensity that is a conversational, relaxed, I could run this for a long, long time, below aerobic threshold, place in your intensity spectrum that before we glommed onto zone 2, it was just called like conversational pace or like easy pace or just go out and be relaxed. Like there wasn't a definition of it. And then, like I said, we made it complicated. So you need easy runs. To the I think commodification of zone 2 as a mainstream fitness concept.
Love it.
So good.
Agreed. Cosine, trisine, quad sine.
Quad sign. I'm just trying to think of like a. Never mind. I was trying to think of like a
handshake.
sign.
We need like some sort of hand signal thing.
Yeah.
We do. Is this what the kids are doing?
Oh no!
Are
no,
they
no,
still
no,
dabbing?
no,
I know
no,
it's so
no.
bad. Yeah. Oh, dad. I'll bring a dad back. I'll bring a dad back.
My husband dabs. When he like proves me wrong with something, he goes to my face. He's like, "Dab." So
Does he say
just
dab
got
when he
dabbed.
does it?
he does.
You got to
He
say
says
it when you
dab.
do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
He
That
dab.
that
He
might
says
be
dab.
grounds for divorce. That one right there. That one
Yep.
right there. No, I love that. I love that. I'm willing to. We're taking suggestions on the core 4 secret handshake. We are taking suggestions.
Yeah.
Last
Ooh.
on our list, double threshold workouts. Is this a need or a nah?
Where's my sign?
Oh my gosh, you better find it quickly.
Nah.
So
It's
extra.
It's a core 4 nah. All four
We
of
just
us
watched
said
the
nah.
Olympics and we saw that if you to win the 1500, you don't even need them. Just kidding. I don't know if Cole Hawker uses them anyway. But like,
Yeah, you should probably send him a note and say like, Jakob, I don't think double threshold's working for you anymore.
Toni, do you want to start?
I think it's just one of those things that there's so many other things that you can incorporate into your training before prioritizing that. And I feel the same way just like doubles in general, like even if it's like logging like X amount of miles, like there's so many ways that you can navigate your training differently before incorporating something like that. That's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, easy doubles. Anybody who's doubled, like in like for their training in general, like doing an easy double is a challenge, right? Much less doing a workout in an easy, much less 2 workouts as your double. So I think this is something that we see that's happening more frequently now because of the visibility that we have and the kind of parasocial relationship we have with a lot of really elite athletes, is that we are seeing and have seen for a lot of time these training concepts or training methodologies that are developed at the elite level then trickle down to the rest of us. Except in this case, it was not so much trickle down as like, oh, the Ingebrigtsens are doing this. And then you had, you know, local legends from here to there being like, maybe I should do double threshold training for my 35-mile weeks. Like, no.
Yeah. And so,
no.
So just in case our audience isn't aware, double threshold workouts basically are where you do a threshold workout in the, let's say, the morning or your early session, and then you break, and then you come back later in the evening and you run another threshold workout. And the general idea is that
then you literally break.
Yeah, and so
then you literally break.
So you're literally trying. So you're trying to get, the idea is getting more threshold miles in over 2 sessions than you could do in 1. It's really like, it's for some people threshold's a 60-minute effort pace. So like doing all that in 1 session is basically a race. So if you break it up and do it over course, you can get more in over the day, but you have to like recover between, do all the right things, and run them at the right effort. And this is what people and the reason we wanted to talk about this was maybe a lot of people haven't had this on their radar, but it's definitely floating around the social medias, and people are picking it up and trying it out just because. And the problem with threshold workout for most people, threshold tempos, is they run them too fast.
Yep.
And if you are ever going to attempt a double threshold workout, you need to be so careful that you're not overdoing it, because you will end up racing 2 workouts and break yourself in half. And the top elites go get a lactate threshold monitor, and they measure their moles. And they find out when they hit the right number, then they stop, right? When their it has reached the number, right? So a lot of us don't have that accessibility to pinch our hand and get our blood levels throughout a workout. So if you're not able to run it at the low end of what a threshold should be and be very comfortable and safe, you are going to run too fast and you're going to blow yourself up, and it's not worth it. So don't, just because you see people talking about it and doing it and it looks like this fun thing on the internet that isn't dangerous, it is only dangerous for your body if you push too hard, and you will run yourself into the ground even harder than you sometimes already do. So don't, it's definitely a nah for most of the community. Most people aren't running enough miles to even handle in most cases 12 16-mile day to do 2 workouts, because you have definitely warm up for each, right? Don't skip that. So anyway, yeah, that's my take.
I think what people don't really understand, again, because it's, what elite athletes are doing. First of all, we have these people who are genuinely trying to push the envelope of what is possible for a human being to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they are trying to get that last 0.1% advantage over their competition. And they've essentially maxed out all the other and optimized all the other training possibly. Their volume is super high, their recovery is super dialed in. They've been doing this for a decade plus, and now they are adding a very specific type of session or sessions into their training. And I will also say, for anybody who's like, okay, but I still would like to do this, like Nick said, when most elite runners or runners who are including lactate guided, which is it's lactate guided training into your training, they are doing it with a blood lactate meter. You are taking blood lactate readings at regular intervals during your training sessions, which is tough to do alone. So you probably need a training partner or a coach to be there taking blood. And in order to actually have your blood lactate profile set up correctly, you need to have done a bunch of testing to figure out where your actual lactate threshold is in your blood. So it's not you can just like walk onto the track and kind of guess.
Yeah.
Because you will run it too hard, I guarantee you. Not to say that I haven't thought about buying a lactate meter, but I would never do double threshold with it.
No.
That was informative,
Yeah.
educational,
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah.
All the E's.
I give us 5 stars. 5 stars.
If I could rate this podcast, I think I'd give it 6 out of 5.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Agreed.
Wow, guys.
So
That's
if anybody
nice.
else has made it this far into the episode, you should also rate
Yeah.
this podcast 6 out of 5 stars.
There's nothing worse than 4 runners who are also run coaches being asked to talk about running topics. This is why we're
Yep.
on hour 6. We're on hour 6. Okay. So my co-host, Coach Nick,
Ooh.
is gonna hit our guests with some
Rapid
super
fire
secret-
questions.
Rapid
Oh, super
fire.
secret. Yes.
Yes.
Are we ready? Here we go. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Slow
Go.
down.
Say it slower, Nick.
I would.
Wait,
Oh,
so
go ahead,
okay.
Elizabeth.
That was it. Slow down.
Yeah,
It's great
figured.
advice.
Yeah.
I would say that's up there, but in order to share something different, going into a race, my coach at the time told me nothing to lose, nothing to prove. And I just like really love that. Like when you're going into a race, it's like you have nothing to lose by like going out there and just like seeing what you can do. And you also have nothing to prove to anybody. Cause for me, I think, or sometimes like when you're in the social space, it's like you can just feel that pressure and even pressure on yourself. But yeah, I love that. Even going into workouts, like nothing to lose, nothing to prove.
I love
Both
it.
of
Love it.
your pieces of advice are applicable to not running as well, which we love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Question the 2. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I'm colorblind.
Really?
I'm surprised to find
I
that
didn't
out.
know that.
So how do you pick which shoe colors you want to
You,
buy?
yeah.
It's not black and white, but my dad is colorblind, my brother is colorblind, so my mom would have to like dress us. And there's times where I'll like buy things and I think it's like it works, and my husband's like,
Oh.
Nah.
nah, not the same color. But basically, to put it simply, when I go to the eye doctor, how they have the booklet that has like the different color dots and that you see the number in it, I can see like the first one, and then after that, it's like just a bunch of different colored dots.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I am a recovering alcoholic. I started running because I quit drinking, and it was bad. Like it was either I was probably on my way to dying very young, or quitting drinking, becoming a runner, and here we are. So yeah, that's me.
Dang, I didn't know that about you.
See, we learned
Yeah.
something new today about
You're
each other.
amazing.
Aw,
You're
that's right.
amazing.
She fucking is.
Good
man.
for you. And congratulations for like making such a massive like lifestyle, like life change. That's incredible.
I love these answers.
Yes.
Question number
One, two.
uno dos tres. What's something you wish more people understood about running industry?
There's more doping going on than you realize.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
I feel like I have nothing interesting to say after that. Shit. I guess like to put it simply, it's like you don't need all of the things that you see. A lot of times, like especially specifically talking about the online like spaces, a lot of people are getting paid for stuff to like share things. And yes, there are influencers that are aligned with the company they're working with and all of that, but more often than not, I would say that's not the case or not always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those answers.
It's funny when
Those are
people
good.
ask me like, where do you buy your shirts? And I'm like, I buy them at the thrift store because I'm not spending $45 on a shirt that I will sweat through within the first mile and a half repeatedly for years on end.
Yep.
Now, I
Makes
say that, and
sense.
I was browsing Tracksmith's silver medal sale earlier, trying to convince myself that I didn't need to buy anything from their sale.
Balance is key. So before we wrap this bad boy up, can you both share with our listeners where they can find you in case they're living under a rock?
Over on both TikTok and Instagram, you can find me at Toni Kengor and then also at relentlessrunners.com.
And I am
And your podcast.
Yes, and yeah.
Oh yeah, we have a podcast. Terrible. The worst.
No,
Worst
it's okay.
podcast.
When the listeners are done with this to warm up their ultra marathon, they'll head over to Relentless Runners.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Yes, and we do oh, go ahead.
No. Then they'll finish with Running Explained. That's
Exactly.
And then
They
I'm
have
assuming at some point
12
their
hours.
100-miler will be close to being finished.
Yeah. Then they'll almost be done. Just a couple more they can figure out on their own. But yes, at the end of last year, Christine, who's my business partner, she's the co-founder of Relentless Runners, but we started a podcast last year, so still new at it. But it's a lot of fun. And yeah, you can, if you go to the Relentless Runners podcast, you can find us on Spotify and all the different places as well.
And I am at Running Explained everywhere. At Running Explained on Instagram. I have a TikTok. It's very dead, so you're probably not going to find me on it. Like you'll find it, but you won't find me on it. Running Explained podcast, runningexplained.com. Running Explained, my friend.
Running Explained.
Running Explained.
Awesome.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. And unfortunately for you, you will have to be back. So make sure you're carving out another 6 to 8 hours.
Can I bring a different sign or should I just put this one in storage?
Do we keep these?
I would keep the signs. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you never know.
I feel like they need to be decorations after all the hard work that's gone into crafting these.
I'm going to put this up in my new
especially
office.
you two.
I get one. Me right behind me. Neat. And then when I'm angry,
this was seriously so fun.
It'll say nah when I'm having a bad
Nah.
That's yes, right. You can alert the people who are
Welcome to
As my
Zoom
husband's
call.
coming up to dab me, I will put up the nah.
That's the sign. That's the sign. We love what we've created here. Everyone who's listening, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you enjoyed this extensive episode. And you can reach out to Nick and I at any time at Between Two Coaches. That's TWOcoaches@gmail.com. Individually on our Instagram channels. And make sure you're leaving a 5-star review. That's 5-star review. Share us with a friend. We will see you next time at our last episode of the Need or Nah series. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.